Hello, friends. Happy Monday. We're doing it again, and I'm back with you. How was y'all weekend? I did a video on Darvo and the Monique and Shalon situation. Her son, her firstborn, his name is Shalon. I did a video on that, and I will get to boundaries. I swear. I just wanted to do this one because right now it's trending, and it won't be because like everything, people forget and it dies down. So I will do boundaries very soon. It's still very important on my radar. I want to give an introduction. Well, my husband will be starting his own channel affiliated with me, Wisdom Workouts. His will be fitness, pretty much fitness. You don't really need to have a gym membership because, not that we can't afford a gym membership, we have a time situation, driving, changing, getting there, coming back. So he's, has a lot of good ideas on how to do a home workout in a little bit of space. And I think, a lot of people aren't that creative and just automatically think you have to do a gym membership. But when I tried to start a new Gmail address to start a channel, Google thought I was a goddamn robot, and I put in an appeal. So it will be starting next week. If I don't get the appeal, I'll just use an existing email address that I have to start this channel. But he's gonna start be doing that. It's gonna be mostly for men because he's a man, and he's gonna do some research on some adaptive workouts for women as well. So look out for that. And I want to talk about the NYPD dance team that went on Pix 11 News in the morning and danced, and the backlash that they're getting, especially since it's on the heels of New York City Mayor Eric Adams cutting $100 million to education and then turning around and giving migrants or illegal immigrants prepaid cards. So I watched it, and it is definitely a bunch of, there's no tea, no shade. It is what it is. Chunky, fat, overweight, whatever you call it. Definitely women over mid 40s, damn near 50. And they're putting on this dance performance, and I think it's something like they practice like 3 times a week or something to what it is. And they definitely was doing some urban dances, some booty shaking or whatever. And they're getting a lot of heat, the dance team, the NYPD, and the mayor. So the mayor came out and said that these are clubs within the NYPD. They don't come out of taxpayers' money, and these are clubs. And I did some research, and according to the internet and the NYPD website, these are member-funded clubs, right? You pay dues, the police officers or the NYPD employees, because it's not just limited to police officers. These are NYPD employees who are eligible to join these clubs. And there is a bunch of them. There is really a bunch of these clubs. But this one seems to be all female dance team. So I don't know if it was because they were showcased on the heel of this situation, or when it comes to the dancing was subpar, or that people think that they are their taxpayer dollars are going to this, and it's not really, the juice is not worth the squeeze. But when I looked at it, there was a lot of male-based clubs, and I didn't hear any heat about them, especially since their events are showcased and advertised. One in particular is the football match between the NYPD and the fire department. That's a club. The baseball team, that's a club. The football team, that's a club. There's even boxing. That's a club. So, I want to be fair and objective. Why is this all female based club being torn down. Now, I've never been or have ever been in proximity to a police officer, but I can imagine that every day that you get dressed and suit up, you might not come home. That's a real possibility. Just like it's real possibility for somebody like me, or more real for my male counterpart, that every time an officer suits up and gets ready to go to work, you might not come home. But that is real. That every time you get ready to go to work and you kiss your family goodnight, you might not come home. So having these outlets and these clubs, I think, is a very good idea, especially if it is funded by the members. You want to join, you pay dues. It's not coming out of taxpayers' money. What's the harm? But I think ignorance and lack of empathy to these women is what fueled the outrage, because I have been to an NYPD um, versus the FDNY football game. I've been there. I've heard of the boxing. I've never been to any events, but I've heard of the boxing. And you know how I know about the boxing? Because if you've ever watched a movie that showcased the NYPD, when somebody goes to find a cop, he's in the boxing ring wearing NYPD garb, like NYPD shirt, short. That's a club. So I do believe that officers need an outlet, and female officers or female employees need an outlet. But I think the timing was wrong to showcase. I don't think it would be wrong to showcase them. If they made it to the news, that's fantastic. And maybe there's a bunch of other female officers who don't know about this club, who need a hobby or an outlet. But I just think it was at the wrong time. And maybe this is something that was scheduled 2-3 months in advance. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all found out in August that in February, y'all was going to go to the show and y'all practiced this routine. I'm not blaming the club. I'm not even blaming the news. I'm just saying that the timing was wrong because of the cuts coming from Mayor Adams. He also cut the libraries. Like, the libraries are no longer open on Sundays. And y'all might be saying, yes, that's just one day, but Sundays is usually what people have, especially when it comes to higher education. Like, if you got a remedial kind of part-timey job, you're probably working Saturdays, because Saturdays is a big time for fast food workers. And Sunday is probably all you have. Or if you're a latchkey kid and your parents work the weekend and you don't want to be home alone, you hang out in the library. So the libraries are being closed one day a week because of cuts. Parks are only going to be cleaned once a week when they were cleaned every day. That's a big problem. Especially because our parks are 24/7, heavily used by the locals, the citizens, and the tourists. So now you need them to be cleaned because you're trying to battle the rat problem. And most of the garbage is food based. And it's not even to say that, oh, the people just shouldn't throw the stuff on the floor. Let's say they don't throw the stuff on the floor. Those garbage cans that might be full from a beautiful random day of the week are not being changed but once a week. So these are the cuts that are happening. Cuts to education, cuts to the libraries, cuts to the parks, Cut, 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 cut. The illegal migrants are getting prepaid cards when you have citizens, New Yorkers, and residents who aren't getting that. I made a joke that my retirement plan is going to have to be going to Mexico, giving up my American citizenship, and then illegally coming back in the country to get all the benefits. Because you got homeless people. Now, I know that a lot of homeless has to do with mental health because there are programs and stuff out there. And then 9 times out of 10, they're choosing to sleep on the streets because the shelters aren't safe or they have mental health issues that are happening. But the migrants are getting cash, EBT, money, whatever, prepaid cards. They just skip the line. And then these food pantries are overwhelmed, and they will tell you the people that are in the line are the migrants because they're there. So these food pantries are bare. You have the taxpayer money, or taxpayers, because even though you're poor and homeless, you still might be paying taxes because you still might have a job and they're taking taxes out of your check. Or you get SSI, you get whatever, and taxes are being taken out. So the taxpayers aren't getting the benefits, but the people that come in and don't pay taxes are getting the benefits. Now, I'm not here to tell you if I'm for them or not. I just know as an economist and a capitalist, I understand why they're here. It doesn't mean that I accept it or that I promote it, but I absolutely know why the migrants are here and why we're keeping them here. And I'm just going to say it is to stimulate the economy by low waging them. That's my hypothesis. And it's really not a hypothesis because I did a lot of insight and I did a lot of research, and I could see what laws are being formulated and are on the books, especially in the state of New York, and how the power of the pen is going to be used to have executive orders to give them these temporary work permits where you can pay them below minimum wage. And you know why America is America? Because of the hundreds of years of free labor that from the slaves, right? The African slave, and even the Chinese railroad workers. It was the hundreds and hundreds of years of free labor that boosted the economy. But we can't have slaves anymore. So what we do to bypass that is we don't do prison reform because prisoners get paid pennies an hour. So that's damn near free labor. But the only difference is a prisoner is more expensive to take care of than a migrant is if they're working. So yeah, I that's my hypothesis on why they are so welcomed. I'm using that loosely, why they're welcomed and how executive orders are going to be used. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because it's exploitative to exploit the people, right? But I'm on the side of they're gonna replace niggas. They're here to replace niggas. And if you don't believe me, watch the town hall that happened in Chicago when this black man just realized what's happening in the city of Chicago, and saying that you guys are doing this to them because the average migrant family has like 3 or 4 or 5 children. And if you pander to them and you give them what you want, you have more taxpayers under your belt. Voters under your belt, because they have children, and the declining birth rate of white people and black people is evident. We're not having the same amount of children as we're used to. Like, take me and my husband, for example. We have 2 children and we're only going to have 2 children. That's just going to replace me and him. That's not going to add another, carbon footprint on this planet. We're just replacing ourselves, and we literally replaced ourselves with 1 girl and 1 boy. But my generation, we're not having the amount of children that our boomer parents had. We're just not doing that. There's a lot of people in my high school who don't have any children, and we're 40. So, but the migrants are coming here with children and they are consistently having children. I don't know if it's because of religion or culture, but they're having children. So you give them these services, you give them this money, they take advantage of the education. Their kids are going to school, they go to college, they're going into education, they're becoming teachers, they're becoming nurses, they are voters. Look at the dreamers. Look at the Dreamers, the Dreamers Act. So it has become realized that, like in Chicago, what's happening, and uh, the blacks are going to be replaced. That's what I'm saying. And it's not going to be, and I'm talking blacks as far as non-middle class blacks. I'm talking about the poverty line blacks. I'm talking about the poor blacks, because there is a level of classism where I've said before in my videos, money is protection, and the affluent blacks with money, they're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm not affluent. I'm very, very middle class. I'm going to be okay. But if you don't have this level of middle classness and you can't make ends meet by being taxed to death, and you can't make it, you're going to be replaced. Just like they have pushed people out of their neighborhoods, especially in New York City. They've pushed you guys out. You guys sold your houses, were forced to sell your houses, or they took your houses away because of taxes, and y'all went down south, went back to the south. And now these neighborhoods are gentrified, and these houses that they forced you to sell for $100,000 are $2 million. So that happened. And I think it's happening here, just like with the great migration of the influx of Haitian immigrants that came over, the Jamaican immigrants that came over, that died down. Then it was the Mexicans that came over, that died down. But although these migrants are coming through Mexico, a lot of them aren't Mexican. They're from Spanish countries like Venezuela, where Venezuela is so, the government and the money is so shit right now that they're actually making tourist trinkets and things to sell out of the money, because the money is pretty much worthless. So they're from Venezuela, they're from Ecuador, they're from um, um, the Middle East even, but they're coming through Mexico, but they're not necessarily Mexican, and they're whooping the NYPD's ass. By the way, if y'all haven't seen it, NYPD officers don't have applied immunity. Am I saying that right? Like that, they took that away from them. They took that away from them. So the police officers are a little bit hesitant to do anything because they don't have that immunity anymore. They can be charged, and these migrant men are whooping their asses. They're becoming like the scooter boys, where they were on these electric bikes or electric scooters and just snatching people's cell phone. They just caught the ring that was out of the projects that was run by migrants. So it's pretty much a shift. New York City is going to turn into the era of David Dinkins, but nothing is new under the sun, and everything is a circle, and it's just the time. So it's going to be bad, but then it's going to be utopia again, and that's just the circle of life. Come on.